Hi, in this video I want to show you how to create a new project in Visual Studio and then to give you a tour of the windows that are available within Visual Studio. So I've opened up the application and now to create a new project. Now when I installed my installation I added in a lot of extras, so you're going to have to scroll down to find a Windows Forms application. So there it is. So that's where you add on your buttons and your menus onto a form, and C# there is what I'm going to be doing in my tutorial. So click next, and then the project name, so maybe just a starting app here just to show you how it's done. The location, I'm just going with the default that's there. The solution name, so when you create a new project it goes into a solution. So solution is where you would store all the projects that you create. So this can be a different name from what your project is. So something like all code or all projects would be probably the best name there. Place the solution, the project in the same directory. It doesn't really matter there where you want to put them, once you know where they are, that is, and create. Now, so it might take a few seconds here to start up the very first time. So here we have a form. When you open this the very first time, your toolbox there will be minimized. So the toolbox are the controls that are available to you, and I will be choosing from that toolbox and basically dragging onto the form. I'm going to do that there now, just drag on a button. Now the windows that are available here as well, you will get hidden on the left hand side there are data sources. We will be using that when we connect to the database, but not at the minute. And now on the right hand side we have the Solution Explorer. That's where you can see the solution that we've just created in the dialog that popped up to start off, and that starting app, that is the first project that I've created. Every new project that I add in will go into this solution, so it's kind of like that's where all my projects are going to be stored. And under that you can see property pages, which will be down here in the bottom. For it might be the properties for your project, it might be the properties for a particular control. I'll go back to that there in a second. App.config, there are some settings in there. We'll probably look at that a little bit more when we get onto databases. Form 1, that is the form that we're going to drag controls onto and write code for. And at program.cs there, that's your main method. So when you hit start at the top, control will go and look for what's in the main method to see what starts off first. So that's quite advanced there at the minute, but we'll be looking back at that in future videos. Now my form 1. So I have dragged on a button. When you drag on a button you might want to make it a little bit bigger. When you click on that, just looking at the properties window there, there'll be different properties depending if I click on the form or if I click on the button. So on the button, the properties window here, just to explain, you can categorize the properties under accessibility, appearance and so on. You can put them in alphabetical order, which is what I do because I know what I'm looking for, so it's easier for me to find. There's a properties there, properties versus events. So events are something like you click on it, or maybe the mouse goes over, or you can program different events there depending on what the control is. So if you've clicked on events, you'll need to click back on the properties to change maybe the text that's on the button or the name of that button in code. And then separately there's a property pages there, which property pages aren't available for every control but would be for the likes of your solution. You could click there on the properties pages, but I may not be using that. So back to my form. Now I want to change the text that's on this button. So if I scroll down, there's a text property. So I'm going to put in there is press me. So at the text property, that's what you can view on the form, so you are allowed spaces there. Now if I go up to the top, there's the name property. That is the name, the code name that I want to give to the button. So Microsoft naming convention would always be a 3-letter prefix. So BTN is for button. And just put in press me and no spaces there. So name, that is the code name. So we'll see that there now in a second. So I'm going to double click on this button and that will bring me to the code behind the button. So it's what I want to happen when the code is pressed on when this form runs. Now I'm in the code view there at the minute. You can go back to design via the tabs at the top, or you can right click and view designer, like you can right click and view code. So this here, this is an event, btn press me _ click. So this is what I want to happen when the button is pressed when I run the form. So what I'm going to put in there is a message box dot show. So that is a method called on a message box, and what I'm going to just put in here, button was pressed, and at the end of that line is semicolon. So semicolons will go at the end of statements, curly brackets would be for a block of code, and if it's not in a block, then the semicolon there at the end. So to run my application, I'm going to click on the start button and just give that a second there to open up. Now, so when I click on the button, that will execute the code that I have in behind the form, and okay, and that's it. And to close the application, then just hit the close button there. So that was a very quick tour of Visual Studio and how to pop a button on and write code behind it. Please see my other tutorials for other controls.